Welcome to extraterrestrial reality. Well, debunker Mick West is hellbent on proving that there's nothing special about the Gimbal UFO that was seen, captured on at FLIR video back in 2015. He doesn't think there's anything special about it, and he believes it has something to do with the glare in the camera. That made this thing look like during the video it looks like this thing rotates. For one thing, I guess what I got to say about that is, okay, if it doesn't rotate, it's not rotating like the pilot thought it was rotating, but it looks like it's rotating in the video. However, what does it matter? They still don't know what the thing was, right? And not only that, but there were other objects there that weren't captured on camera. There was a fleet of them that were apparently following along with this thing. But anyway, this guy is absolutely hell-bent on debunking this whole thing. Now, you think for one thing, the people in the Pentagon, okay, they're telling us that they don't know what this object is. You don't think that they looked into this? Or not only that, but they've been dealing with this situation since 1947, so they're used to this. They've seen this movie before, okay? This is nothing new to them. So, I mean, the kind of investigation that you're been conducting on this video for years now, apparently, it's a waste of time. It's going to prove to be a waste of time in the final analysis. Anyhow, he tweeted about this on February 9th. Mick West tweeted, Paul Bradley is an engineer who did an analysis of the Gimbal UFO video that contradicted the rotating glare hypothesis. Now, for those who out there who don't know, the rotating glare hypothesis is West's theory that the object itself wasn't rotating as it was flying. That was something due to the at FLIR camera that was filming it. But anyway, continuing, it says, after talking to him and showing him the effects of angle of attack and bank changes in my new gimbal simulator, he changed his conclusion. It's a glare. Now he says it's a glare with authority, like it's a glare. Bingo, boom, on the story, according to Mick West. You're just supposed to believe that. Anyhow, Paul Bradley, this is the comment. This is what the message that was sent from this engineer, Paul Bradley. I don't know what he's an engineer of what. It doesn't really say in here. But he says, hey, Mick, it was great to talk to you in person about the gimbal. I really enjoyed it, and I feel like I finally have closure on what I think is the most important aspect of any UAP evidence to date. Thanks to all your hard work on the simulation. Very clever to use an experimental approach, and it's very useful to explore the full dynamics of the situation. Your simulation test satisfactorily addresses the gaps in my calculations, and I can now say with high confidence that what is seen rotating in the Gimbal UAP video, based on the physical evidence available to us, is a glare artifact of the at-FLIR camera rotation. Thank you for your rigor in this scientific process and for engaging in the exchange of thoughts, knowledge, data, and analysis. I appreciate your hard work on this, as I personally felt this was a very important aspect of the UAP phenomenon. I don't think that the conclusion of this particular study renders the video insignificant, however, given the surrounding context of the event. For example, pilots being obviously perplexed and the whole fleet of them that we do not see in the video. But it is certainly a piece of extraordinary evidence, the perceived aerodynamic anomaly, that is, which can now be taken off the table. Now, this engineer, Mr. Bradley, is convinced with Mick West's hypothesis that the rotation was caused by some glare in the camera. Now, I can't prove this. I don't know. Maybe he's right. Maybe he's wrong. I don't know. There's some people here that actually, call him out on this. Like, this person named Gav says, in this Twitter feed says, an engineer is very, very ambiguous though. An engineer of what? Music, trains, electrical? Would be helpful if you were more specific. Otherwise, this guy's conclusions could hold no weight. But this was what was really telling. And Mick West responded to this. He says, Paul was someone who was cited by Christos 78 and his work, well, I don't know who that is, and his work has been referenced elsewhere. He was described as an engineer, but I don't know what discipline. As always, I'd be happy to talk to any subject matter experts. Okay, now Mick West, now this is what's telling about this whole, whether this guy's, whatever kind of engineer he is, doesn't matter. This, whatever Paul Bradley, whatever kind of engineer he is, that doesn't matter, right? That's not what I'm getting at here. But what matters is that Mick West didn't even know what kind of engineer he was, and because this guy, said he has been convinced by Mick's analysis after looking at it, even though this guy had a different theory. Came to his own different conclusions initially. After talking to Mick West, he changed his mind. So, but then Mick West puts this out there like, this guy, he doesn't even know what kind of engineer he was at the time, right? He just says, well, see this guy agrees with me. See, I'm right. It's a glare, right? I mean, so there you go. That's just to throw that out there. Like, this is all. He has to be right no matter what. Mick West cannot say he's wrong on this, and he never will. But again, I don't know if he's right or wrong. Right, when you look at that video, it looks like it is rotating. He's saying it's some kind of a glitch in the camera, but there's other people in this thread that point out that, have they talked to the people who manufactured the camera? Did you get their thoughts? So, and he hasn't. Like here, let's look here at some of these comments that I was looking at here earlier. It says, I'm not being funny, Mick, but this is from somebody named James Gaffney. It says, I'm not being funny, Mick, but if you don't know what his credentials are as an engineer, then for all you know, he could be a washing machine engineer. I think you should find these facts out about people and their line of work before you try to bounce back with your hypothesis. That's fair. That's a fair, commentary. That's with regard to the engineer. So I guess, again, and again, I'm not saying anything about this Mr. Bradley. I'm sure that, for all I know, he's very respected and he's a well-known engineer. I mean, somebody in here commented that there's a J.J. Hermes that commented, says, there is a Paul Bradley whose PhD thesis was on theoretical and observational astrophysics of pulsating white dwarf stars. Is this the same Paul Bradley? So it could be him. I'm not going to look into that. That's not the purpose of this video. I don't care about that. What I care about is how this whole thing is just, presented. It just goes to show that he didn't even look into this guy. Could have been anybody, but because that guy agreed with him after listening to his argument, oh, see, I was right. Right? He didn't even look in to see who this guy was. I could have been me. I could have said, hey, I'm an engineer. And this is my theory. What do you think? And he didn't even look into my background and then just, see, I'm right. But anyway, all of this is all for naught anyhow, whether it rotates or not, right? If it's something to do with the camera, right, and it's this glare hypothesis is correct, so what? So what? What does that matter, right? See, but what he says, according to him, according to Mick West, he says, well, it matters because now it's basically it doesn't mean anything now. It's not interesting anymore because it could be anything. It could be according to him now that could mean it could be just something human made. But again, all of this doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter because he doesn't know. This is an obsession. It seems like it's obsession to prove that this extraterrestrial presence isn't real. But unfortunately for him, he's wrong. He's wrong, and so are all these other debunkers, all these other people out there who, Mick West is going to go through life here apparently, beating his debunker Bible wildly. And in the end, it's going to be all for naught because in the end, in the final analysis, it's going to be known to all that there is an extraterrestrial presence here on Earth. I know this. I have an ace up my sleeve though because I've seen one of these things up close, and I know for a fact that there's no way this thing was made on Earth. There's just no way, right? So, and I had some other experiences too, But again, it's interesting. I was looking through really good Stanton Friedman book that called "Flying Saucers and Science," and on page 60, I'm going to read this little excerpt from this book. He talks about Dr. Simon Newcomb. Okay, he was in 1903. He was one of the top American astronomers of the 19th century. He published a paper in which he showed that flight by man using anything other than a balloon, a lighter than air vehicle, was impossible. His paper clearly showed that he knew much less about flight than did two bicycle mechanics named Wilbur and Orville Wright, who first flew a heavier than air vehicle at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina on December 17, 1903, less than 3 months after Newcomb's article was published. And when Newcomb was notified about this historic event, he, similar to many others, had trouble believing that such a flight had occurred. There were no TV or radio reporters back then. He also claimed that, although perhaps a pilot had flown a heavier than air vehicle, it would certainly never carry any passengers. He knew nothing about the lift over a wing, about relatively lightweight engines driving a propeller, and all the other engineering aspects of flight that the Wright brothers had investigated in a systematic fashion. So, again, this is the situation that's gonna unfold here, unfortunately for Mick West. Again, I have the ace up my sleeve. I don't even need the Pentagon to tell me what's going on, right? You don't think the Pentagon would? You think the people of the Pentagon would be that stupid? Regardless, you think they'd be that dumb to put this stuff out there and say they don't know what it is, and to have people, supposed experts out there, who could do simulations and make other conclusions? You don't think that they've been dealing with this for decades? They know about, there's pilots over this pilot who saw this thing, or the pilots that encountered this object objects back in 2015, right? They were just the next in line of a whole, new slew, a new wave of pilots, in the military that were experiencing these things. But the top brass in the Pentagon, there's always been knowledge about this subject. They've been dealing with this since 1947. So this proves, rotate, no rotate, what does it matter? In the final analysis, it's not going to matter. It doesn't matter. But, just my personal belief, I think it is rotating. And I don't think it has anything to do with the camera. What do you think of that? That's just my opinion, though. Doesn't make me right.